to, to celebrate the beginning of a formal partnership between LightCastle Partners and Larive International. We are very excited by the prospect of becoming the newest addition in Larive International's network. Hello and good afternoon to everyone who is here, who has joined with us today in this call. My name is Ivdad. I am the Managing Director of LightCastle Partners. As you all know, we believe in the Bangladesh growth story. We believe that by working with the private sector and in coordination with the foreign investors, we should be able to promote a favorable investment climate in Bangladesh. And over the last 7 years, that's exactly what LightCastle has been doing. And I am very, very excited to say that today we are entering into a strategic partnership with Larive International to take or to consolidate our efforts into mobilizing more investments for Bangladesh. Just a bit about Larive International, as we know that they are a 75-year-old consulting firm that works with the mission to guide customers in developing and implementing their market entry or expansion strategies into high growth markets. Bangladesh is one of the high growth markets, and today in their network of 24 high growth markets that they have spread all throughout Asia, Central and Eastern Europe, Turkey and Sub-Saharan Africa, LightCastle is going to be the exclusive member of the Larive Group in Bangladesh. And we are honored, privileged to be able to work with you for mobilizing more investments in Bangladesh. Thank you so much, Matthias and Davinia, for being with us in this call. So as for the audience, I just want to say, it's going to be a 1.5 hour long event where we will first start off with the commencement speech from His Excellency Riaz Sir, who has joined us in this call. And then there's going to be Davinia and Matthias from Larive, my business partners, Bijon, who's the CEO, and Zahed, who's the Director of Consulting Engagements, will be here today with all of you in this call as well. So just want to say a few words about Ambassador Hamidullah. Ambassador Hamidullah is a career diplomat. He's continuing his journey for 2.5 decades now. To date, he has served in Bangladesh mission to UN in New York and High Commission in Delhi. Then on Lien in SARC Secretary in Kathmandu as a director. Afterward, for 5 years, as a Director General for Europe and then for multilateral economic affairs. And since 2016, he has served as the Bangladesh High Commissioner to Sri Lanka. Earlier this year in July, he moved to Netherlands as the Bangladesh ambassador, also concurrently accredited to Croatia and Bosnia. His areas of engagements include climate change, water, sustainability, migration, responsible business, and connectivity. So we are honored by the presence of Hamidullah Sir among us today in this event. The next speaker that we have with us today is Ms. Davinia Lame, who is the managing partner of Larive International. She has been in this role since 2016, and with extensive experience in the internationalization of the food and agro sector, she is managing private-public partnerships such as Food Tech Holland, Food Tech India, Hortitech India. And finally, we have Matthias Brennan with us, who's also a director at Larive International. He focuses on assisting Western companies with developing and implementing market entry and growth strategies in South and Southeast Asia. Furthermore, Matthias is managing a number of public-private partnerships between Western businesses and knowledge institutes with business development in high growth markets such as Food Tech Indonesia and the Netherlands-Myanmar Poultry Cooperation. So we are very excited to have all of you among us today. And with that, we would first like to introduce His Excellency Riaz Hamidullah Sir to deliver the commencement speech. Sir, if you could share some words with us, we'd be honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ivzad. Very good to see you. Good morning to everyone who's joining online from Netherlands and Dhaka. Dhaka, it's I think 5 hours ahead of us. I'm really very pleased to join this event. And it's simply not as a matter of cliche that I'm saying I'm very pleased, because I've known you all in LightCastle, and it's very strange that one of my visits from Colombo, I discovered Ivdad and eventually Zahed in Dhanmondi, and then our conversation began.
Yeah.
And while I was in Sri Lanka, I think this summer we began a conversation almost unknowingly, um, if we could have an undertaking in mapping Bangladesh's engagements, economic engagements per se, with Netherlands. Be that as it be, I think we have worked together and also with Matthias for past few months. So that gives me a great degree of happiness, I would say, to see that not only that you all are youngsters, but the way you have uh, formed this partnership, it actually helps fill a long felt void in Bangladesh that we see from government side. Because when we think of positioning Bangladesh or showing Bangladesh and the Bangladesh growth story that I think if that you underlined, um, it would help uh, it would help us as much as it would help you um, to move along. Now, I see a considerable amount of potential in your partnership. Why? Here in Netherlands, almost now approaching my fourth month, I see that while we are considerably at odds in terms of endowment capacity and capabilities, Netherlands and Bangladesh, there is a great commonality, which is both of our countries are deltaic nations. We also face vulnerability and also are trying to convert vulnerability into uh, potential opportunities. Also, there is a great maritime heritage connecting our countries. And it's simply not a heritage to celebrate, but it's also a heritage on which we, both our countries, are trying to creatively build upon and convert into economic opportunities. So when I see that you would be primarily, you means Larive and LightCastle will be joining hands and trying to look at different sectors, different opportunities, different modalities or modes. But I think eventually, if we could also bring up different public goods, that would help create a completely different foundation for your venture, which ordinarily may not feature. So, and I can say that, well, as I speak to FMO, RVO, CBI, and all that in Netherlands side. There's a second element that I see, and I was listening uh, to the European Union president, who incidentally is from Netherlands, and she was saying, as Netherlands and Europe, for example, are moving towards a
পিসির দেখ
new
একটু আমি একটু মেইলে রিপ্লাই করে নি তারপর
sorry, hello,
Sir,
hello,
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
yeah. Yeah, and she was saying this earlier this week something very prophetic. European Union as a whole is moving to circular economy, uh, much beyond sustainability with which we are familiar with, and that would call for considerable shift of gears and transformation, as much as for Netherlands and Europe, but also for manufacturing landscape like Bangladesh. Uh, that I think would be again a fascinating, challenging space, challenging time and space, but also I think something that uh, partners like Larive and LightCastle, you can hold hands and look at how again you can employ your creativity and imagination and innovation. Last but not the least is um, I'm really very happy to share with all who are joining this event online that we are coming to the final stage of something of undertaking a study uh, with full lead from Larive and LightCastle to to launch a desktop study to map 5 decades of Bangladesh and Netherlands um, private sector as also government-wide economic engagements. That's to be launched soon, and eventually we're also looking forward at having an online series of webinars in early December, looking at light engineering, agriculture, and water climate, all premised on business and economic principles. I'm sure that may possibly also mark one of your August ventures out of this collaboration. So all said, my personal very best wishes, as also warmest compliments from the embassy in Netherlands. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for your words. It really means a lot to us as we are going to formally start this relationship between us and Larive International. And we'll definitely keep into consideration all the points that you have touched upon, be that in the form of coming up with robust studies or mobilizing further investments. At the end of the day, we do want to make sure that Bangladesh's growth story keeps on growing. And from LightCastle, that's what we commit. We want to keep doing, and with Larive, we can do it even better. So speaking of the opportunities in Bangladesh, at this point, I would like to invite my business partner, Zahed, who's also the director and the head of consulting at LightCastle, to share a short presentation on the opportunities that exist in Bangladesh. So with that, I roll it over to Zahed.
Imdad, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see this.
Great. Thank you, Imdad. Thank you, everyone. So just as Imdad was mentioning, I only have 10 to 12 minutes to describe what Bangladesh is to potential investors. It's a very short time, but I'll try my best to present as much as possible. If you look at a broad macroeconomic scenario for the country, you'll definitely see that the economy has tremendous potential. I will mention why. First thing is, for a country this small, we have a population of 164 million. Our population is not only very young, but we have a lot of people. In a small, in a very small place, and we will benefit from the demographic dividend, and also we are benefiting from the density dividend, that, as mentioned by Faisal Bhai from Bangladesh Bank, the chief economist. In terms of the per capita GDP, our incomes are going up in tandem with the GDP per capita. Along with that, our economy has been growing at 6% plus, although COVID has had a damping effect on the economy in general, but still we'll be growing by 4+%, according to IMF. In terms of FDI, we have not done bad, to be honest, but there is a lot of potential for improvement. In terms of exports, we only catered $33 billion, which was roughly around $40 billion. The decrease was due to the COVID. And in terms of the RMG contribution, which contributes roughly 85% of the country's export, we got $27 billion of foreign exchange earnings. In terms of FX reserve, our FX reserve has increased to a record $40 billion, which is quite impressive. And our debt to GDP ratio is quite low when you compare with other South Asian countries. And in terms of the digital landscape, we know that the mobile usage and the internet usage is quite high. It's around 94 million population who have access to internet. In terms of the population, we all know that we have a rising middle and affluent class population, according to a study conducted by BCG. Bangladesh had roughly around 12 million population in the MSc class who have significant income to make purchases with deep pockets. And this population is expected to quadruple within the year 2025, which is a sizable population, to be honest. In terms of consumption, as a nation, we are a nation of spenders, and our spending ratio is quite high compared to our GDP, which is quite unlike what's happening in India and some other countries in the neighborhood. If I move on to the next slide. If you look at the investment scenario, we will see that our investment to GDP ratio is roughly around 32%, which is not bad, but there is substantial opportunities for significant improvement. In terms of FDIs, I have mentioned that the FDI for the year 2018-19 was $2.8 billion, which is frankly not quite impressive, given the fact that neighboring countries like Myanmar and Vietnam had higher volumes of FDIs. If I move on to the next slide, yeah. If you do a comparison between the different countries in terms of FDI contribution, we'll see that Bangladesh's FDI contribution to investment is quite low, which is around 3 to 4%, which is much higher for our peer, which is Vietnam, and also the FDI ratio for India is also very high. We have done this study back in May, the Business Confidence Index, where we talked to C-suite members from different sectors. And we basically asked them the top sectors which are investable in Bangladesh. And based on the study findings, we see that the pharmaceutical sector has significant growth potential, and CXO members would, given the choice, would be investing in the pharmaceutical sectors in the near future. Apart from that, there are significant opportunities in agriculture, agro-processing, ICT and ITES, logistics, and digital financial service, which is quite interesting. In terms of the overall potential and opportunities, we will see that in terms of the costing, both for managerial wage and for workers' wage, Bangladesh's labor cost is quite low. However, in terms of overall efficiency or productivity of workers, we have still a bit of a distance to cover. But in terms of aggregate pricing or costing of wages, we are more competitive than our immediate competitors. In terms of electricity pricing, our electricity prices are quite cheap, although electricity is subsidized by the government, but it's much cheaper than India and China. And apart from that, we also, as I mentioned earlier, we are experiencing a demographic dividend. We have a significant working population, and there is significant gap or supply for workers. And for any companies coming in the secondary sector, there will be adequate supply of workers who would be able and willing to work. But what's happening? Why aren't we being able to invest FDIs in Bangladesh? If you have a look at the Doing Business Index, we'll see that Bangladesh has not been performing that well. Our current ranking is 168. And our immediate competitors have much better ease of doing business ranking. There are several issues for that, which I will be briefly covering. For example, for Bangladesh, there are certain challenges in terms of entering the market. There are challenges in terms of contract enforcement, and there are certain challenges in terms of securing electricity and utility connections. However, the government is actually taking strong measures in the form of one-stop solution service, which is being initiated by BIDA. It's still in its early days, but there is a good potential that the market entry process would significantly be curtailed. It will take less number of months to enter Bangladesh for international investors. In terms of the different opportunities, we can see that there is significant investments happening in terms of infrastructure, in terms of building bridges, in terms of developing the ports and other facilities. Alongside, the government is also setting up special economic zones across the country, which would enable or attract international investments, particularly in the secondary sector. In terms of our opportunities for growth, we believe that there are like two areas where we can particularly focus. One area would be creating global brand perception. There is a bit of a negative perception about Bangladesh as an investment destination, and that has to be changed. And this cannot be done by the private sector. This cannot be done by the government sector. There has to be concerted attempt from all parties in order to brand Bangladesh. And we also need to capitalize on the investment fiscal opportunities which are being provided for international investors, and there has to be better promotion. Alongside, we also need to attract bigger brands so that this can actually give a statement to international investors who are looking into this region for making long-term investments. In terms of the market entry process, as we were mentioning, the overall market entry process has to be streamlined so that international investors can easily enter the market through different means. And our large contingent of NRBs who are staying in different countries should be mobilized in order to ensure that we can actually sort of make them our ambassadors for promoting investment in Bangladesh. And BIDA's one-stop solution service has to be further streamlined in concert with the other ministries who would be there to support these foreign investors. Having said that, we believe that this partnership would be able to we would be able to support incoming investors who would be looking into Bangladesh, not only by providing market intelligence studies as Sir was mentioning, but through other ancillary services, which includes board compliance services and other legal regulatory support, which would enable international investors to enter Bangladesh. I would stop here, and I would give the floor back to Ivdad, who will take it forward from here. Thank you.
Zayed, thank you so much for that presentation. I hope that gives our audience an overview of where Bangladesh stands and how far we could go together by working together with Larive as we go along. Because as you know, with this relationship, we do want to leverage both of our organizations' expertise on business intelligence, market entry and growth strategy, M&A advisory, and even post-investment services for the interested investors in Bangladesh. I think that's just the perfect segue for me to move into the next part of this conversation, where I will be inviting Matthias, who's the director at Larive International, to also share a short presentation about what Larive International does in general to our audience. So with that, if I could roll it over to Matthias.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. And well, first of all, thank you, Your Excellency, for making time available and your kind words. If that, beyond ahead, it's a pleasure, and we are honored that we have been able to establish our partnership following the cooperation we had during the past 2 years in a number of projects. I would like to share with you a few slides about Larive, our organization, what we are doing. And next to me today here is my colleague and fellow partner, Davinia Lamme. She will introduce shortly after. But let me firstly try to share screens with you. And then I do hope this works out well. Let me see. If correct, then you have the presentation in front of you.
We have Matthias. If you can just go full screen with the presentation.
Yes, it should be full screen now. So, Larive International, we are a business development advisory firm established in 1975 and headquartered in the Netherlands, which is specialized on supporting companies with entering and expanding their market entry and growth strategies in high growth emerging markets, where we focus on 3 regions. These are Asia, Central Eastern Europe, and Sub-Saharan Africa. And we are a network organization, although we have and we used to have a number of own firms or subsidiaries of Larive International in high growth markets. We nowadays convert more or less to a network organization which has representative firms in 24 geographies in these 3 regions. So, till...
Matthias, ik zie je slides nog niet goed.
Apologies.
Yeah. I was just about to say that, Matthias.
That is odd. Let me try this one more. What about now?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you. So once more, we are a network organization of independent business development advisory firms, with since this week, since today, adding the 24th geography to our network, being Bangladesh. We guide our clients with entering or expanding in these geographies. And thanks to our presence in all these markets, we are able to give practical insight and have an objective view of different geographies. So our journey started in the Far East in the 70s, being Korea, Hong Kong at that time, and then we expanded to other markets in Asia. In the 90s with Central Eastern Europe opening up post-communist time, we established the Larive Group in Central Eastern Europe. And during the past 10 years, we've been expanding in Sub-Saharan Africa. In Asia, we were not yet represented in Myanmar till 2016, and till this time in Bangladesh, which were, I would say, the 2 last major economies where the Larive Group was not yet present. So what we do, and I go to the next slide, is that we facilitate market entry and growth strategies for our clients. And this often starts with an ambition. Often our clients are headquartered in Europe or in the US, where they have a strong position in their home geographies, and they would like to leverage this to high growth markets for example, in Asia. And then together with Larive and the Larive Group network, we support them with providing business intelligence, which could be mapping out opportunities in terms of product service market combinations. We assess opportunities, provide insights and legal framework, based upon which we define a growth strategy, which could result in the fact that they prioritize Bangladesh and they opt for establishing a partnership to grow their foothold in this market. And what differentiates us from other consulting firms is that we not only provide insight and guide in terms of strategy, we also support clients with implementation. So we can identify partners, we can incorporate companies, we can establish joint ventures. And that is, I think, an attractive proposition for our client base. That we, first of all, we have the network in multiple countries. And secondly, we can not only identify opportunities, but also support them with realizing these. A number of services we offer in these different geographies. I would say the charm of the Larive Group is that we have different teams with different specialties. These are often also related to the sectoral composition of the market. For example, in Thailand, our team is very much experienced in the automotive sector, as Thailand is home to a large number of automotive companies. Whereas, for example, in Indonesia, we are stronger in consumer goods. So it depends a bit also on the structure of the economy. But more or less, the Larive Group members each have the capabilities in-house to guide companies with entering and expanding in their home market. So in general, Larive International, the Larive Group members, we are sector generalists, meaning that we support clients in all different types of industries. However, we have our specialisms, and these relate, for example, to agro-food, automotive, energy, water, typically also industries which, notably in the European Union, we have competitive advantages which can be leveraged to high growth markets. These are typically also industries which are lifting off the moment high growth economies are developing. So we saw that, for example, in Vietnam 10, 15 years ago. We saw it in Myanmar 5 years ago, and we also witness it now in Bangladesh. Once the consumer spending is increasing, markets are opening up, then you see international investments flowing into banking, into IT, telecom, agro-food, consumer goods, typically sectors which are in the early stage of high growth markets. And I would like to share a few examples of projects we guided, we coordinated in recent years. For example, in Myanmar, we support a company named Nutreco. They are a European headquartered company active in animal feed, and they wish to serve the Myanmar market. So first of all, we defined what would be an optimal market entry and growth strategy for them in Myanmar. And we together we decided that the company would localize part of its production activities. We conducted a legal assessment on the do's and don'ts. And together with them, we identified also the optimal location to establish their production plants. And in addition, we also guide them with the whole process of establishing this factory, including identification of the optimal location, attracting permits, guiding during the construction phase. And notably, this plant was opened 2 years ago in the Tilawa Special Economic Zone, which is near Yangon. Another company we've been working with in various assignments is Heinz. They're a US headquartered company active in amongst others, sauces, baby foods. They had the ambition to grow in Southeast Asia. So we had a multiple country study where we were engaged in 3 or 4 markets in parallel. And it was our role to identify which markets to prioritize and how to grow. And it also included identifying potential partners, for example, in terms of import and distribution, they could work with. 2 other examples I listed here is Brabant Alukas. They are nowadays part of a US headquartered automotive company. We supported with establishing a production plant in China. So we did together with the team in China, we support them with the whole feasibility, all the legal work to establish this plant. And the final reference I would like to share is Associated British Foods, which is a European company you might recognize from their tea brands. And we help them with expanding in the Thai market and starting up discussions with strategic partners in Thailand. So next to supporting many individual, mostly Western headquartered companies with their growth strategies in emerging Asia, we also work with what we call clusters of companies. And we do that often in value chains where there are synergies to partner. I provide you here one of the examples, and it was also mentioned by Yves Dat, a cluster we have been running during the past 6-7 years in Indonesia. So as you all know, Indonesia is one of the fastest growing economies in Asia, and with growth of the economy and increasing disposable incomes, there is an increasing need for domestically consumed, produced poultry products, meaning poultry meat and eggs. In the Netherlands, there are many companies which have a strong international position in this value chain, each of them having the ambition to do more business in Indonesia. So what we developed is an initiative where we bring together partners from different steps of the value chain. And we form a partnership where we would guide them in business development activities in Indonesia. We partner, in this case, with the Dutch government, which is also a co-funding part of the activities. But I would like to underline that we also have cluster initiatives where we work together with other governments or international financing organizations such as the World Bank, the EBRD. And particularly for Indonesia, we have been able to establish a number of demonstration facilities and providing technical assistance in order to improve their position and strengthen ties with Indonesian companies. So we have been developing these kind of cluster initiatives for numerous value chains in various Asian markets. And as mentioned by Yves Dat, for example, Davinia has been particularly involved in the horticulture sector in India. These could be approaches which we might also want to apply in Bangladesh. So we, together with the LightCastle team, we have been assessing a number of value chains and had discussions with private and public sector players on how to implement these kind of initiatives. So that's about Larive International and the Larive Group. Maybe a few words on my own, if the time allows, Yves Dat, and then maybe Davinia, you would also like to do a very short personal introduction. Myself, I'm with the company for over 10 years. I have a background in macroeconomics, and as mentioned by Yves Dat, I'm particularly involved in our activities in Southeast Asia. From 2013 to 2015, I was also based at the Larive office in Bangkok, Thailand, from which I also coordinate a number of our activities and projects in Southeast Asia. So pre-COVID, I used to come regularly in Southeast Asia, also in Bangladesh. I was there for the last time in March. Well, we do, we have the opinion, and we're confident that the situation will improve for the better. And once this allows, then I will be back as soon as possible in Bangladesh, because we strongly believe in the country, in the economic opportunities, but moreover in the LightCastle team. Maybe Davinia?
Yeah, Matthias, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Yves Dat, also for this opportunity today. I'm very, very happy that we now finally have formalized this cooperation with LightCastle. I have some experience with Bangladesh. Just to give you a little bit of background, I have a background in business administration. My former job was at an energy company, but I joined Larive in 2008. And became a partner in 2014. I have been doing a lot of projects in the beginning in Eastern Europe. Also developed East Africa together with our third director, Wouter van Vliet, because when I entered the Larive International, East Africa was still a black spot. But the last couple of years, I'm doing a lot of projects in India, a lot of projects in agriculture, horticulture sector, cold chain, bakery, a little bit of poultry. I have some experience in Bangladesh. When I started working for Larive, we did a project in the bakery sector. We performed a feasibility study with a Bangladeshi company where we performed a feasibility study to set up an industrial bakery. It was an interesting project. Unfortunately, the bakery is still not there. But during that project, I already saw the opportunities that Bangladesh has. And I'm really looking forward that we now have this cooperation. And I believe that same comes with plants. If you don't give them water, they don't grow. But if you provide them with enough water and love, the partnership will grow. And I also believe that that will happen between this partnership and the cooperation between the Netherlands and Bangladesh. So really looking forward to it. And I'm for sure that it's going to become a success.
Thank you so much, Davinia. Thank you so much, Matthias. You know, we are equally excited to be working together as we go along from now. You have already introduced yourself, so you know I'll just roll it over to my business partner and the CEO of LightCastle, who would like to speak with you and get your thoughts on, you know, how you're thinking, you know, we can, you know, go from strength to strength in this relationship, especially in the Bangladesh market. So, you know, with that, I will roll it over to Bijon to have a conversation with you for the next 30 minutes. Bijon.
Thank you, Ifdat. Very warm welcome to His Excellency Nasser and Davinia, Matthias, Iris, and the rest of the Larive team, and all our guests in the audience. Thank you for joining us in this particular occasion. If you have any questions to the panelists, feel free to use the chat window. Those who are watching us live on Facebook, feel free to comment as well. We'll follow this question and get back to our panelists once we have them. So my first question would be to Davinia. Hi, Davinia. Again, thank you for joining us. And we have been hearing about Larive a while during the presentation as well, but your expansion in these 24 high-growth markets across Asia, Central, Eastern Europe, Turkey, Sub-Saharan Africa. Why did Larive Group have started focusing on Bangladesh right now? Why do you think this is the right time to enter Bangladesh? And why do you see Bangladesh, going over to the next decade, especially from 2021 to 2030?
Okay, thank you, Bijon. I think I can answer that. As said, Bangladesh is not completely new for Larive. The company is established in 1975, so it's not that we have not done anything in Bangladesh, but until now we don't have a formal partnership like that we have now with LightCastle. And to be honest, the last couple of years we saw a growing interest amongst our clients in Bangladesh. As you already told in the beginning in your presentation, you have a sizable market with 164 million people, a young population, you're a growing economy, purchasing power, and that's also what our clients see. And I think that what you also see, a lot of our clients are already active in Asia, and they also have black spots, just like what we had. So, and slowly but surely, they're now also investigating opportunities to enter the Bangladeshi market. And I think that will continue. So for us, it's a strategic market. We have been doing a lot of business in your neighboring country, India, in which I have a lot of experience. But we also see the opportunities for Bangladesh. So we're happy that we have this partnership now and that we can promote Bangladesh amongst our network. and that also if your country feeds us with opportunities, then we can match that with companies from the Netherlands who would be of interest to enter the Bangladeshi market. So yeah, I see potential, and it's just a matter of putting energy and attention to it, and then it will fly.
Thank you so much, Deviana, and I will come back to you on that second point later on during a panel discussion, how we can put in more energy, the right kind of energy into it as well. Next, I'll go to Matthias. Matthias, good to see you. Unfortunately, not in person, but it's always happy to meet you over Zoom or other virtual sessions as well. And Devian has mentioned this, and you have also mentioned this, that you have also worked closely in Bangladesh across a few industries, including energy, agriculture, consumer products. If you had to pick sectors, what would be, in your opinion, what sectors do you think will drive Bangladesh's growth in the next decade?
Well, I think
Should I tackle this one, Davinia?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all right. Well, Bijan, thank you for your question. And indeed, so during the past 2 years, we have been working on supporting a number of multinational companies with assessing the opportunities in Bangladesh. Agri-food, you already mentioned, energy. Well, besides, I think we also see opportunities in light engineering, light industries. There's of course a wide range of sectors, and as mentioned also by His Excellency the Ambassador Rias, also that everything what has to do with water, marine, and ports, that is typically something we see opportunities in Bangladesh, and well, these are also industries which are matching with the capabilities and the expertise European companies have. So to zoom in a bit more within agri-food, we see the opportunities, for example, in livestock, both for, let's say, both livestock and aquaculture, I would say, with growing disposable incomes, you see often increase in consumption of animal protein. Bakery, as already mentioned by Davinia, Bangladeshi consumers are eating bread. They used to eat. You have a bread culture, so to say. Likewise, in typically the northern part of India. I would say that the dairy sector might also be of interest. Also something we in Europe. Countries such as Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, France have strong dairy capabilities, which they might want to leverage in Bangladesh. Well, next to agri-food, we see opportunities in consumer goods. Similar path as with agri-food, consumer disposable income of consumers, particularly in the Dhaka region and other tier 1 cities, is growing. So that will also fuel the demand for these kind of products. But moreover, I mean, Bangladesh will remain a main economy with strong activities in textiles. I mean, your country is strongly geared toward everything that has to do with garments and textiles, and also, of course, shipbuilding. That will be traditionally a strong sector for Bangladesh. But if you look to new sectors for the coming 10 years, I would say we focus on agri-food, consumer products, light engineering, light manufacturing, energy, and water. These will be our priorities. And that is also why we have chosen these topics for our webinars, which we will host together in December.
Thank you so much, Matthias. I think that gives a very strong and clear directions. What are some of the opportunities for Bangladesh in the coming decade? And I definitely look forward to the webinars that is going to happen in late November, early December as well. My apologies if I have been breaking up a bit. I've been using a wireless mic and suddenly it went out of charge technology. I've switched back to wire-based mic as of now. Davinia, coming back to you. One of the things that we always hear about Bangladesh, especially when we're talking with international investors, is the doing business ranking. Currently, it's 168 compared to 63 for India or 70 for Vietnam. What do you think would be Bangladesh's biggest challenges in attracting foreign capital when you're comparing with South Asia and other ASEAN peers? What would you think we should do about them?
Well, first of all, I think you have big competition, so I don't think it's that bad that you have this ranking. You have to compete with very large markets who are also growing, also have a growing economy each year. So yeah, from that perspective, yeah, it's number right. I think the most important thing is actually what you also said in the beginning is your image. You have to do something about the brand Bangladesh, how to promote your country. If you could do something about the image and change it amongst companies, but also people who work there, so that your country becomes more interesting, then I think it will become more attractive for companies, but also people to work in your country. And I've seen it, what India has done the last 10 years with the Modi government. He had a real strong pro-India approach with roadshows going all over the world. And I don't say that the Bangladesh has to do something similar, but I think it really helped to create a different mindset amongst the European world about India, because I think India had the same problem 10, 15 years ago. It's just a matter of brand awareness, making Bangladesh a brand and promote it amongst the EU. And I think that should be the way forward.
Thank you, Davini. I think that is very interesting. I think the image of Bangladesh, we really need to work on that and figure out how we can actually promote Bangladesh as a more credible investment destination. And that is something I think we'll definitely try to work on together as well. Going back to Matthias. So Matthias, we've been hearing a lot about this FDI to GDP ratio. It was in Zahed's presentation as well. Mm-hmm. For Bangladesh, for recently, for 2019, it was below 1% compared to GDP, compared to Vietnam, which is almost at 6%. India is almost near to 2%. When you talk to a lot of investors around, what is kind of the biggest obstacle that you see for convincing them towards the Bangladesh market? And where do you think, besides the sectors that you mentioned, what kind of branding opportunities should we capitalize on?
Yeah, well, thank you, Bijan. I think it has to do a lot with what Davina already mentioned, your international branding, where I would say Vietnam is doing very well. And I guess that's also related to the fact that the US-China trade war also directed part of the international investments to Vietnam instead of to China. But in addition, well, we have to be honest, I think there are still a number of obstacles or points for improvement to keep it positively for Bangladesh. I guess the whole infrastructure, although there are numerous investments taking place, and as also mentioned by Zahed, with developments, especially in economic zones, ports, seaports, I would say congestion is still, and the cost involved with domestic transport in Bangladesh is still a challenge. But we are aware that your government and also the private sector is working hard on that. So we expect this to improve for the better. In addition, well, I would say bureaucracy is still a challenge. So at least from a perspective from the international investor. So Bangladesh is linked to bureaucracy, red tape. So whether this is based on facts or it is an image thing, but at least it holds international investors for prioritizing Bangladesh above Vietnam or India, for example. Of course, you also have a number of challenges in terms of natural flooding, etc. That is also that's also increasing the risk factor for Bangladesh. But having said, I would rather look at the positive points. You have a young population, especially younger generation is high educated, acquainted to IT and tech. Typically also industries where new initiatives, new spin-offs and startups would arise from. So typically in these industries, IT, pharma, we also finance, fintech, we expect also new initiatives to develop from Bangladesh. And that is, I mean, these would be opportunities where Bangladesh as a country and the private sector could distinguish from, for example, from India or Vietnam.
Thank you, Matthias. I always love that how you go into details and give us a lot of information that we can all process and take this to the next level. I always love that about you as well. Since we have a bit of time, I'll go to another round of questions before we try to take questions from the audience as well. And Davina, this is for you. So during the beginning of the COVID and even before that, we have been hearing a lot about this China +2 policy, the US-China trade war, and how companies, especially in manufacturing, are often looking to diversify out of China as well. Do you think there are ways Bangladesh can benefit from this potential capital flight? We already know that India and Vietnam has been partially successful, but what does it exactly mean for Bangladesh?
Yeah, well, yeah, Bijan, I think it definitely offers opportunities, but it's also a difficult question, right? Because there is a lot concerns that goes along with this. So you also really need the support from the government and to have a good legal framework in order to attract foreign direct investment. So it's not something that is that easy to do. But then again, I think in combination with your brand awareness, it might help. But it's not something that you do tomorrow. It's something that will take time, and it needs a lot of support from also, especially also the government.
Thank you, Davinia. And I think this is something that we always hear, that we have to consistently kind of give enduring support from the government. It's not something that you give 1 year and then take it out, but you have to constantly do this for 10, 15, 20 years. And that is something it's definitely there as well. So we have received a question from the audience, and Davinia, Matthias, feel free to, one of you to take this, that what are some of the long-term challenges and threats? Sometimes we hear about climate change, that part of the country will go underwater, but as an investor and we're working across multiple markets, if you look at a few long-term threats, what would those be for Bangladesh?
Yeah, shall I take this one, Davinia? And of course, this is I mean, these are challenging questions. I mean, really on a macroeconomic level, but yeah, for sure. If we look longer term, what are the opportunities? What are the directions which should be taken? And from the other hand, what are the challenges? Well, maybe starting with the opportunities. I think long run, what is known and what we have seen in other emerging markets is that the best investment as a country you can make is in education. Ultimately, educating the younger generation will result in new business opportunities. And that also relates to attracting international investment. We have seen that in various Asian markets. It also accounts for Central Eastern Europe. To make a bit of a comparison, in recent years, especially the past 10 years, we see a huge inflow from FDI from Western to Central Eastern Europe. Particularly, of course, labor, the differences in labor wages was relevant, but also has to do a lot with availability of skilled people. So technical educated people. And that is something where Bangladesh, with the a huge population might be able to distinguish and also to continue the current growth path. Because keep in mind, Bangladesh is already outperforming many other countries in South and Southeast Asia. You have been the fastest growing economy during the past years. And that's also one of the key reasons international investors are now opening their eyes for Bangladesh, whereas the country was often not in the on the priority list of the boardroom for many years. But I guess that is now changing. And we see a more sizable economy, and that will attract also new investments, which again will attract other investments. And that's a bit what we expect. So, well, our advice would say invest in education, and secondly would be the legal framework. It has been mentioned a few times today, the red tape, I mean, and everything has to do with, let's say, the confidence a foreign investor would have in investing its capital in a market. Well, first question will be, what about ownership? What about remitting any dividends? So that is giving the confidence to an investor that its investment is secured, is relevant. So that will be, from my perspective, or from Larive, two main points of attention. First of all, education. And secondly, the legal framework. And maybe another parallel what we see in Bangladesh, also with other markets, for example, Myanmar, but also in Philippines, for example, is that you have a huge population working overseas. And in Singapore, in elsewhere in the Middle East, people which often get new skills, get new insights. And if you are able to attract, let's say, these repatriates, so to say, you often see that these are the guys and ladies which are establishing new ventures. Something we have witnessed in Myanmar, for example, in the past years, that Burmese being overseas, back to their home country, bringing in new ideas, a bit of capital they saved, and now establishing new businesses. And that's also relevant because you should not focus only on attracting international investments. You should also focus on your own capital, your own human capital, so to say. Other obstacles which you should, let's say, diminish over time. I would say, and that is a bit what you also mentioned, Bijon. I mean, Bangladesh remains vulnerable for natural disasters, global warming. It is a challenge. But that is due, of course, to the geography of the country, close to the sea, natural disasters, main rivers, the largest rivers from Asia coming together in relatively small size. So yeah, that is something which requires, I would say, a longer-term planning, and there I would say it might be a parallel also with because we are also a delta-based country with a lot of water flowing in, and 50, 60 years ago, our country was also very vulnerable to flooding, where our government took the lead and developed a delta plan, where we have established a huge infrastructure to protect coastal flooding, but also, let's say, steering main river water flow in. So that might be something which is also required in Bangladesh. Also a topic which is you're not starting from scratch, it's already been working on, and also strong ties between the Netherlands and Bangladesh in that field. But that is definitely a topic which remain a focal point for the next 1-2 decades.
Thank you, Matthias. And again, I'm very glad that you explained everything in details. I especially like the human capital, the education piece as well. I think that is very, very important as the country goes to the next decade. I think I have received a very interesting question from the audience. So the person is asking that tourism especially for countries that receives a lot of FDI like Vietnam or Malaysia or Indonesia or even India. They actually focus a lot on tourism that helps them build the brand image. How important is to actually for tourism to develop in Bangladesh and to brand it like that, and how well related it is to future FDI opportunities?
Would you like to take this one, Davinia?
Yeah. I find it a difficult question because I don't think not every country has to be rely on tourism. I think it's an add-on. If you look at, for example, countries like Cambodia, they have certain things in their country which attracts tourists to go to, and the question is that something that what would Bangladesh offer tourists to travel there? And it doesn't have to be all buildings or cultural UNESCO sites or whatever. It's an add-on. I don't think it has to be a particular focus. So,
well, if I may add, Davinia, I think tourism could be an option to increase, let's say, brand awareness. So people who have been in Bangladesh, especially as a tourist, going outside Dhaka city, they probably get a better understanding of the country and opportunities. But I think something you should keep in mind that while the touristic sector is very relevant for a number of Asian markets, offering employment for a huge number of workers, it is also a very cyclical and risky sector. You see that, for example, nowadays with COVID. Again, no one expected this a year ago, but a country such as Thailand, which was quite dependent on the inflow of foreign tourists, also from Asia, they have now huge issues. It has a very strong impact on the economy, with millions of people being unemployed. So yes, tourism could be a nice add-on, I would say, to the economic development path of Bangladesh, but it would not be my priority for a structural improvement of economic development.
Yeah, I rather would focus that the question that is also being asked by the people who are watching today is on sectors such as agriculture, and I think in agriculture, if you look at what the Netherlands has to offer, I think in that respect there is a lot of cooperation possibilities between our country and your country, and which you can further develop. And I think that would be more of interest than looking, for example, at the tourist sector, especially in these times.
Thank you, Daviana and Matthias. With that, we are coming to an end of our panel discussion. I will now move for closing remarks, first to Daviana and then to Matthias.
Okay, well, Bijan, Ifdat, thank you so much for today's opportunity. As already said, we're very, very pleased that we now have this official cooperation between Larive International and LightCastle. We're going to put a lot of efforts into this partnership, and we're going to promote it amongst our networks. And yeah, let's make it a success. Thank you so much for this opportunity today.
Thank you, Daviana. Matthias?
Yeah, well, we are excited about Bangladesh and also the partnership with LightCastle. So indeed, Bijan, Ifdat, Zahed, thank you for hosting this event today. We're looking forward to a fruitful and long-term cooperation where we can land many investors in Bangladesh. I also would like to express once more my thank you, gratefulness for His Excellency Ambassador to the Netherlands. We look forward to our webinars, which we'll host on 8th and 9th of December, where we'll touch on the opportunity in Bangladesh, but specifically for 3 industries: which will be the first one will be agri-food. The second one will be water and marine, and the third one will be light engineering, light manufacturing. Bangladesh is an exciting market, and we see many parallels with other markets which have seen a huge growth path in the past decades. And we look forward to come back as soon as possible. So meanwhile, take care, and thank you all for hosting.
Thank you, Matthias. Ifdal, over to you to formally close the session.
Thank you, Vijan. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you, Davinia, for the great conversation and the lively discussion. There's just so much to learn. And, we believe in the Bangladesh growth story, like I've said in the beginning. And we believe that with all your insights, with your expertise, the experience that you're bringing from working in different parts of the world, together we have much more to offer to the people of Bangladesh. And I am very, very excited by this prospect. Let this be the beginning of an enduring, long-term, and everlasting relationship between the two organizations and the two countries. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our audience for coming in and listening to us and be a source of inspiration for throughout LightCastle's journey. And we hope you are also as excited by the prospects this partnership has to offer as much as Larive and LightCastle. Thank you so much once again, everyone, for your time, for the discussion. We look forward to a strong beginning. With that, we end this formally. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Stay safe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.